Greetings and salutations, everyone. If you're watching this video, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please hit that subscribe button. I do appreciate it. Alright, so what are we talking about today? We're talking about an ASMR live that I just finished up here on Samius. I went ahead and I did a pure level 20 stick-based monk. I did wisdom-based, and I had a lot of fun. This build was with a little bit of effort and a little bit of persistence in certain situations. Was totally capable of doing Reaper 4s solo with the hireling to run back and give heals and the occasional res. I don't think I necessarily got the build gearing exactly right. I don't think I got the everything exactly right, but I feel like it came together pretty well overall. So basically, as I said before, I am wisdom based, and things kind of pill together. So I also want to mention on Front Street that I do have like 11, I think, racial action points. So it's very easy for me to like work the core over, jump up a little bit, grab some healing amp and the top tier in the ASMR tree, and of course another tree as well. So it felt very straightforward to me. I took bits and pieces out of the Hinson Mystic tree, a little bit here, a little bit there. I primarily focused on the falconry tree until I got to level 12, where I took all the top tier falconry tree enhancements, and I basically played like your typical wisdom monk, I think, sort of, with the option, or the changes being, instead of being deep in Shintao, which I feel is very, very strong, I tried being deep in Hinson. Somewhere around level 15, I think, maybe 16, I wanted to try the Mystic tier 5 enhancements. So I pulled out of falconry just a little bit, and I swapped over. This was a double-edged sword in my opinion. I do feel like some of the top tier enhancements are very good, but I feel like some of them are kind of iffy. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. For example, I don't feel like every one of these, what are they called? Winter's Touch, Static Charge, basically Awaken against an element, or necessarily good, but they were all required to get to the Void Strike, which I did feel Void Strike was very good. So it's kind of like this cost me 5 action points to get to, because other than the first all-consuming flame, I really didn't care about the rest of them. They felt very pointless to me. None of your key attacks do anything. I understand why they're there, but I would rather just see a line that improves the one element that you pick, and maybe have another selector someplace else to have a second one. I don't like this. You have to have all of them to be able to get to the top. Let's see. Something else that I felt a little bit weird on is, being that you're heavily based in I was heavily based in the quarterstaff, right? Getting extended critical quarterstaffs were actually not hard, but not easy at certain levels. The Broken Ore has an extended critical profile, I think starting at 12, which really helped, but the multiplier is really weak. There's a couple other ones if you like go on the wiki and look around. So unless you already have those quarterstaffs, I certainly felt when in Sharn my DPS was a lot lower. And basically just through the Sharn chain, I'm not gonna lie. Through that area is where I felt underpowered, undergeared. And then at level 18, I went ahead and I pushed into Shavrath for a little bit of change of pace for questing, and I just did R1s in there because whatever, and everything felt really good again. So I have the feeling it has a combination of the newness of the quest and the poorness of my gear. Those two things kind of went together. I did have the, what is it called, Syrian quarterstaff? Syrian? I don't know how you say it, but the craftable quarterstaff out of Sharn. So I felt like I had a weapon that was designed for the content. It just didn't quite land through as well. as opposed to the Sword of Shadow builds that I've done recently. Felt very good all the way through once I had my Sword of Shadows all the way through. So something to think about is, do you have a weapon at 16 that is what you're looking for? Do you have a weapon at 18 that is what you're looking for? And keep in mind that your quarterstaffs are going to take a beating. So you may have to go to repair every other quest, or sometimes even every quest, depending on what you're fighting. So keep that in the back of your brain. All that being said, by the time it was all said and done and good, through the epic quests, I felt like I was keeping up okay-ish. Particularly in situations where I had time to throw down the Cauldron of Flame. Cauldron of Flame, especially once you have your capstone over here, Serenity, makes a big difference in your DPS. You're getting extended critical profile. I guess it's over here on this side, actually. You're getting 50% attack speed, and then while you're in the Cauldron of Flame, you're picking up 5 to hit, 5 to damage, and +1 critical multiplier. All those things kind of like work together, so inside that Cauldron of Flame, it works really good. If you're cycling back and forth between Void Strike, that's giving you extra threat range and extra multiplier, and Fist of Iron, which is also critical threat range and critical damage multiplier, like together those things kind of like start to balance back out. So you can take kind of a mediocre quarterstaff, just like this epic Soul Eater, and you can still get there. Like, the crits were still very good. The non-crits were a little bit less than I would like, but the idea is that you're getting off these massive crits all the time. There was windows, there are bursts where I was able to crit on a 15 to 20 for like ×4 or ×5, which is insane, especially if you were combine that together with something like the Unbridled Fury, or while you're in the middle of the Adrenaline Overload, stuff like that. Overall, I have to say, I don't know if I love the Mystic tree as much as I prefer the Falconry tree. Especially when you're doing solo play, especially when you're playing in Reaper, level 3, level 4, level 5, etc. And the main reason why is that Death from Above is a single target cooldown kill from the bird. It's wisdom based, it's assassinate based, etc., etc. Like, it works really well together. So there's a lot of times when you're soloing on a more than Reaper 1 where you just need a guy killed, like a problematic champion or something along those lines, and you just got to get it out of the way. For example, I was doing one of the Sharn quests. I think it's called Blown Deadline, maybe is the name of the quest, and I was in that infight. And one of those sentient or scenery drones was a really nasty champ, and he was basically hitting me for 420 a second every time that I was around where he could hit me. Like, it just popped you really hard. Where if I could have thrown out a Death from Above and got that killed, I think I could have probably recovered with a Gibber's Blade or a res from my Hireling or something, and made real progress and leapt forward a little bit. Other than that, though, I thought it was a lot of fun. It did feel really good. It felt well paced. Definitely a couple of weaknesses in the build, like your MMR is not very good. I think you could tighten that up with your Reaper enhancements if you wanted to. And even though in Heroics I felt like my saving throws were very good, I think right away at level 20, at least for the content I was doing and the crew that I was doing it with, it felt like my saving throws became very bad immediately upon moving into epic level content. Again, I was doing things like elite Reaper Stormhorns and stuff like that, and those things in particular I felt were why I was still, again, contributing to DPS and getting good reasonable amount of kills for being so under level and stuff like that. I did feel like I was failing saving throws quite a bit. So that's an area that you should consider beefing things up. As for gear, like I said, I don't think necessarily everything's correct here. Beef pointed out to me that one of the rings has a reinforced fist, so I eliminated it basically right away based off of that alone. But it has another power that's tied to what stance you're in, and perhaps that was too hasty of me, and perhaps I should have worked that particular ring into my gear set. 2020 hindsight, it is what it is. Wisdom versus strength. I feel like it's on the fence on this. If you're going to be doing bird attacks, which I personally enjoy doing, I think they add quite a bit to the build, and making things helpless, particularly post level 20, is in my opinion very, very good. Being able to squeeze in the no mercy really helps, stuff like that, especially when you're doing big strike throughs. So like bird attacks, like coordinated strike in particular, is a big deal. But could I have gotten a little bit more damage if I was strength based? Probably. The Divine Purpose, the Fallen, gives an extra 2 strength damage. I could have, instead of being Wisdom based with Ocean stance, I could have been Sun stance. Grabbed a little bit of strength there, which is kind of a wash in my opinion. But it does have an extra critical multiplier that's added on, and maybe that's better than having the extra defenses. Stuff like that is close in my opinion. It's also much easier to fit in big strength items, I feel. Like a lot of the gear, especially like the Ravenloft set and other places, are designed to give you extra strength. Like it's easy to slide that stuff in. It is much harder, in my opinion, to slide in good wisdom items. So like for example, I just, after level 15 here, I was just like, yeah, it's fine. And I want to point out that I did not build these goggles for this build. These just happen to be goggles I already had crafted. If I would have crafted something for this build, I could have had +8 goggles, +9 goggles, +10 goggles, whatever, that also had Assassinate on them to make the bird even more powerful, and I think that would have been really good. But you see what I'm saying? Like, it's a cramming in the wisdom is a lot harder, where like for example there's cloaks that give you double strike in strength, and they just kind of make it really easy, like cloaks and gloves, and like your sets for all your melee DPS seem to have strength built in, stuff like that. So it's much easier to work that in my opinion, than try to glue in your wisdom after the fact. Any other big weaknesses of the build? No, not particularly. Like, again, the saving throws after level 20 felt kind of weak, but before level 20 felt really good. A couple other things that I want to say that I really liked and enjoyed. In particular, I really thought that the Incinerating Wave was very fun. It moves really slowly, so you could like fire it off and then actually move ahead of it and start attacking, get the monsters grouped up, and then the wave would actually hit. It also goes quite far, which was also really good. So like you actually had quite a bit of extra range damage built in without having to switch off of your quarterstaff between the Incinerating Wave and the Keybolt. I actually reevaluated Keybolt after we moved into what I would consider level appropriate quests last night. I was helping to lab farm up some tokens really quickly after we logged off last night, so we could just do Epic Elite on those because Tobrel was too high level to be in the Reaper version. And all of a sudden, the DPS felt amazing. Keybolt and the Wave and everything like that. For 5 mana, I had a ranged attack that went off relatively quickly for like 700 damage on average, which is pretty good for not breaking your stance and not messing, playing with anything, not switching weapons. And the Wave was doing something like a little over 1,000 per enemy. So like if you hit 2 enemies, that's 2,000, and it just explodes, I feel. The other thing was the Cauldron of Flame. It lasts for about 30 seconds, and it's got a minute cooldown, so you could, every 30 seconds, basically you could, every other thing, you could toggle it on, toggle it off. That I felt could be reduced a little bit, because you basically, you wanted to run up to something, turn on your Cauldron of Flame. So yeah, it's also possible that I picked the wrong Destiny to be in. I didn't really go real deep into it. It might have been better to be in Crusader, because then you could alternate auras to kick your damage up. I don't know. Either way. See, we talked about. Yeah, I think we talked about everything basically. If you didn't go Wisdom base though, one other thing: if you didn't go Wisdom base and you went pure Monk, you do not have access to any kind of boost ability like a Deadly Instinct. That may or may not be important to you while you're leveling, but it wasn't. It's relatively important to me. You're talking about adding half of your Wisdom modifier to damage and tactical feats and stuff like that, and you pretty much never run out as long as you're continuously spamming your bird. So it's kind of like Insightful or the other Insight bonus abilities. I'm not sure why this has a five charge limit on it, where the other ones don't seem to, but it is what it is. Other than that, I really enjoyed the build. I think overall I would put it, I don't know, I put it somewhere in the 8 out of 10 scale for fun. For soulability, I would probably put it somewhere in that window between 7.5 and 8 out of 10 for soulability. There's a reasonable chance that you, instead of being a Dark Monk, this is something that I probably should have actually mentioned really quickly. I decided to do Dark Monk just for fun, or a change of pace. But I think instead, if you were a Light Monk, you probably would have got a lot more survivability out of the deal, especially with all the strike through we ended up picking up. If you could have applied the healing strike to 2 enemies at any time and doubled up that amount of healing that you're getting as you're striking through, that probably would have been very big. The main advantage of going Dark Monk instead of Light Monk in this particular build is the finishing move. And the Dark Monk finishing move is Curse of the Void, Void Dark Void. And the damage doesn't do all that much, but you can basically auto charm a target. So having a charm on a class that you wouldn't kind of expect that from was very interesting. And then it basically always landing was also really interesting. But with a high strike through, being able to charm 2 or 3 guys in certain situations was incredible. There was a couple of downsides to this charm. One, it only lasts about 10 to 12 seconds, give or take, at least in the Reaper 4s that I was doing. And then also, everything breaks at the same time. So it just, boop, everyone comes out together. I never saw anything stagger. If you hit 3 guys with it at one time, it lasted however long it lasted, and then everybody broke together. And again, that really kind of worked out in a lot of situations. Where in the positive one, I believe it is +5 damage. No, +5 to hit and +5 to skills. Yeah, Moment of Clarity. +5 to hit, +5 to skill checks. So there, I feel like the Dark was better, but the survivability increase you would have picked up, I think, would have made up for it along the way. The other thing to kind of consider with the survivability, and I'm not sure what's going on now at the end, but I was able to max out my 36 dodge all the way through leveling, basically. Something has happened with gear, plus I'm also... No, it still says I'm light. Something has changed along the path last night when I was looking at it. And it kind of hurt my dodge a little bit, but you can actually have that 30+% dodge chance all the time very easily, which I thought was also very good. Alright everybody, I hope you enjoyed my look at the monk life, the StickMonk. You can of course go back and look through the various videos over here on youtube.com/SamusGarobo, or over on my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/SamusGarobo, and watch some of the clips here and there, whatever, if you'd like to see it in action. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Toodles.